Hi everyone, JJ here. Welcome back. Well, today I want to address this article that was in Wired and some of the people involved in this who I have referenced on this pod before, at least three of them, which is why I need to talk about it. I want to talk about it. The article in Wired was a dark money group is secretly funding high profile Democratic influencers. So, kind of juicy topic, which is doing the rounds. There's a lot of comment on this from the left, and you'd expect it from the right attacking. And so, yes, very political. I've addressed these people on perhaps the political pod, but also on the main pod as well from time to time. And this is the video associated with it. Taylor Lorenz was the author, the journalist involved here. She's done a video on YouTube as well. So there's a lot of content on this, and I have seen it. There's also a response video from somebody directly involved, Tyler Cohen. So we'll go through that. I'll respond to that. It was his kind of rebuttal, which I think is partly pretty problematic, actually. And also David Pakman involved. So these are the biggest influences that I've referenced here. Well, political commentators, you could say. And there are a lot of others involved in this, but honestly, I don't know who they are. So I won't address them. This is part of the group here. Chorus was co-founded by Tyler Cohen. Maybe some of you do recognize others from TikTok. By the way, this pod's going to be a bit longer than usual. I want to get through this. There's a lot to get to, so you'll be into this or you won't. And I don't want to talk too fast. I've had criticism about talking too fast in like a racehorse commentator way. And, when the videos are 10 minutes long or less, I guess I do that. And maybe I drink too much coffee. Anyway, let's get into this article. What do they say? In a private group chat in June, dozens of Democratic political influencers discussed whether to take advantage of an enticing opportunity. They were offered $8,000 per month, 8,000 US dollars per month to take part in a secretive program aimed at bolstering Democratic messaging on the internet. So you would have noticed my videos. I'm kind of on the left of politics. So I want to make this clear. I wasn't invited to this group. I had to check my emails just before just to make sure I hadn't missed one. It'd be very unlikely that I would anyway. I'm not in the US, so it's an international opinion anyway. They go on, but the contract sent to them from Chorus, the non-profit arm of a liberal influencer marketing platform, came with some strings, Taylor Lorenz says. Among other issues, it mandated extensive secrecy about disclosing their payments and had restrictions on what sort of political content the creators could produce. So this is part of the rebuttal. They say that's not the case, but let's get more into this article. If you've already seen this, because there have been a lot of videos from others on this already, if you might want to skip to the rebuttal videos there later on. But for those who don't know anything about it, and I will comment on this along the way, for years, Democrats have struggled to work with influencers. In 2024, President Biden's White House snubbed several prominent content creators after they lightly criticized the administration over its policies on climate change, COVID, Gaza, and the TikTok ban. Content creators who challenged Kamala Harris, including Hassan Piker, and he's commented on this drama that's going on here. On this, he did a video about it. I've seen that. I've watched quite a lot of the videos on this over the weekend. A well-known influencer on the left was similarly unwelcome at campaign events. So people like that wouldn't be invited into this kind of program. It seems to be like a more mainstream Democratic, people involved here. They talk about the party line here, and that's refuted as well. But it does seem to be like more of the leftist, socialist type of people aren't involved in this. Says after the Democrats lost in November, they faced a reckoning. It was clear that the party had failed to successfully navigate the new media landscape. So that's what this springs from. And of course, there's a lot of people on the right of politics that do get funded in this way. And there's been a lot of criticism, including from these people, these big influencers. So that is part of why this is worth criticizing as well. Is it fighting fire with fire, secret money, secret dark money, so-called dark money funding both sides? I mean, American politics is just amazing to me like this. I think generally there's too much money from, wealthy sources and secret sources in politics in the US for sure. That would be my reckoning. Now, Democrats hope that the secretive Chorus Creator Incubator program, that's what it's called, funded by a powerful liberal dark money group called the 1630 Fund. More on that in a minute. I mean, who are they? That's the problem. Nobody really knows who they are. Might tip the scales. The program kicked off last month, and creators involved were told by Chorus that over 90 influencers were set to take part. So they're trying to create this big group of influential people, and there's a lot of right wing people, as I said, online making political content. Creators told Wired that the contract stipulated they'd be kicked out and essentially cut off financially if they even so much as acknowledged that they are part of the program. Some creators also raised concerns about a slew of restrictive clauses in the contract. So this is really problematic if true. And I have to say, this is in Wired, so this is not, this is a respected publication, a respected journalist, although the people being targeted here say the opposite of that, obviously. So I won't read all this out, but these are some of the people involved here. As I said, I don't know these people. A lot of these people, the TikTokers, for instance, I'm not really on TikTok, or I don't participate on TikTok. YouTube is my area that I'm in, really. And so I don't really know these people, but I understand from other people in the space who have made videos, they don't really know these people either. So there's people who are much bigger, like David Pakman, for instance, who hosts an independent progressive show on YouTube covering news and politics. So he's been in this, as he said in this video, for decades. He's been in here a long time. Tyler Cohen, who I think came from MSNBC to begin with, and he's pretty slick in his videos. These people have got, I think, well over 1 million. Both of them have got well over 1 million subscribers, a big following. They talk about being an incubator. They're more like incubating the other smaller influencers. So that's why I'm talking about these two people in particular in this video, because it seems like they're sort of helping to bring through new influencers, and that's what they say. David Pakman, Lee McGowan, who goes by the online moniker Politics Girl, and dozens of others. So I've seen hers as well on YouTube. The first two declined to comment. The rest did not respond to requests for comment. According to the copies of the contract viewed by Wired that creators signed, the influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 Fund, or functionally that they're being paid at all. So we'll see in the videos about this, the response videos, they say that's not true. But the 1630 Fund is the one. That's really the dark money behind this, that they talk about, so-called dark money. So Chorus is more public, but I haven't seen, I mean, I do watch some of these videos, and I haven't seen them talk about Chorus very much, and I can't speak to all those other creators. I haven't been through their videos, but if you do know them, you might be able to say. Brian is going to respond to it, and we'll see what he says. Dozens of liberal influencers are believed to have been approached by Chorus about the 1630 Fund financing opportunity this spring. Hasn't been going very long. They were told that Chorus appreciated the work they were doing online and were asked if they'd be interested in being part of the first cohort of a new program that Chorus was running to help expand their reach and impact. So White has talked to some of these people, and they had screenshots of, like a presentation. Now, it's said here, according to copies of the contract viewed by Wired, creators in the program must funnel all bookings with lawmakers and political leaders through Chorus. Creators also have to loop Chorus in on any independently organized engagements with government officials and policy leaders. Now, I've seen Brian's videos. He has a lot of access to politicians. He has politicians' interviews on there, so that would be appealing to some smaller creators who want to do that, access to the politicians perhaps. Now, if I want to work with another politician, I have to fully collaborate with them. One creator who was offered the contract but ultimately declined to take it and asked not to be named. If I get Zoran and he wants to do an interview with me, I don't want to give that to them. So some people have declined because of the supposedly lack of independence or the threat of it. And the thing is, when you get money from sources and you don't know where they are, and it's a lot of money, then they might not be so much demanding what kind of content, but it's sort of a soft power thing, which somebody commented on later. And Brian says he didn't know what that meant, which I just don't believe. Of course, he knows what that means. The contracts reviewed by Wired prohibit standard partnership disclosures, declaring that creators will not publicize their relationship with Chorus or tell others that they're members of the program without Chorus's prior express consent. So this is highly problematic, I think, not disclosing the relationship, which Brian says is not the case. I mean, we have to weigh up both sides here and see what we believe about it. The secrecy is really problematic, especially when it comes to money, disclosing where the money's come from. With an ad, you have to disclose where the money's coming from. And in politics, I've done a lot of videos on this channel about Elon Musk, and everybody knew that it came out that he'd been funding Donald Trump or the campaign, and how much that was, a ridiculous amount of money. So this shouldn't be any different, really, on both sides of politics. Where's the money coming from? And if there's a creator being funded, either they don't know where it's from. Tim Pool was criticized heavily. People on the right were criticized heavily, and by some of these creators at the time. I would say, can't remember the specific videos, but it was a big deal at the time, and I'm sure they made videos on it. So, is this a bit of hypocrisy going on here? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. The goal of Chorus, according to a fundraising deck obtained by Wired, is to build new infrastructure to fund independent progressive voices online at scale. So this is to combat the right-wing podcasts, which are absolutely huge, including those like Joe Rogan, who got more political and supported Donald Trump. Tim Dillon, who I've talked about on here as well, I've shown his things too. So there are some massive right-wing podcasts. So it is about really trying to match that, with fire. But does this include the dark money aspect of it too? The creators who joined the incubator were expected to attend regular advocacy trainings and daily messaging check-ins. Those messaging check-ins are led by Cohen on rapid response days. The creators also had to attend at least 2 Chorus newsroom events per month, which are events Chorus plans often with lawmakers. Now, these people have said that it's not about the content, it's about how to get it out there, how best to work to get more viewers, basically, and to work with the algorithm and management, administrative type things. But you'd have to think there'd be some content talked about at some point, or everybody being on the same page, but I just don't know that. So Keith Edwards, who I have also referenced in this podcast, another big left-leaning podcaster really on YouTube. Keith Edwards, a Democratic content creator who has skyrocketed to fame on YouTube since starting his channel just last year. Wow, I thought it was older than that. Was not invited to be part of the program, but believes that the way it was structured seems predatory. He says that he would never agree to take part in a program that was run in secret or wouldn't allow him to disclose funding. Yes, that's highly problematic, not being allowed to disclose funding, or even if it's not in the rules. It seems like, the fact that this took a journalist, an article to bring it forward, means it wasn't really widely known out there, I think. The 1630 Fund has emerged as a powerful funder of democratic spaces in recent years. Its website notes that issues supported by the organization include economic equity, affordable healthcare, climate solutions, racial justice, voter access, and other essential social change goals. The organization was founded in 2009 as a liberal response to conservative dark money groups and organizations like the Koch network, and under Trump it has soared. So they're going to talk a bit about the 1630 Fund here, but not much is known about it. But there's massive amounts of money involved here. This is not small. In 2020, the fund distributed more than $400 million. So we talk about Elon Musk's, massive contribution to Trump or the Trump campaign, around $270 million or more. this tops that, but it's a group of people. But who are they? Just 4 donors accounted for close to 2/3 of the fund's revenue in 2023, according to its tax filing. The largest donor gave the group 50.5 million, and others donated 31.4 million and 21.8 million and 13.6 million. So who are these people? Who are these people with the big money behind it? That's really the question here, and why the secrecy around this. Does Brian know who these people are? Does David Pakman know who these people are? Would they rather not know? Wasn't that the criticism of Tim Pool when he didn't know where the money was coming from? He's like, I don't care where it comes from. And it turned out that, yes, maybe it's coming from Russia. I mean, from the Democratic side, who are these people? Elon Musk always talks about George Soros is funding everything, paying protests and everything. I mean, shouldn't this all be open, transparent if there's funding going on? What's the wrong with saying I'm getting money from so and so and my content? You need to know that. You should know that. What's wrong with that? Why keep it secret? Or if you don't know that, wouldn't you want to find that out? I certainly would. The 1630 Fund, which is not required to disclose its contributors, has for years been a major funding source for liberal and progressive causes and groups, including those that spend in elections. And I just did a quick search of this to see what the AI knows about this. This is Google Gemini, and there are a few names mentioned there, but it is AI. That it could be looking at content where there's just speculation involved. You never know, but it's interesting. I don't know if this information is true. You can't really go on AI. Now, it talks about the funding, of course, here. So it says that influencer Tyler Cohen is a co-founder who has over 4.6 million subscribers on YouTube and leads messaging check-ins for the creator cohort on rapid response days. According to records viewed by Wired, Chorus claims that its initial creator cohort has a collective audience of more than 40 million followers and more than 100 million weekly viewers, and that the organization has hundreds of creators signed up and ready to amplify messaging. So, as I said, I just going from the names and the photos, I don't know a lot of these people, and a lot of them are just starting off, obviously being incubated by people like Pakman and Tyler Cohen, helping to be incubated and mentored, who do have big followings, been doing it for a long time, so pretty experienced. They're definitely not in the incubator themselves, and as I said, co-founded by Brian. Now, on the right side of politics, we have to talk about this too, because is it fighting fire with fire? And this was a scandal at the time, which I'm pretty sure Brian and David both talked about at the time. I didn't go and look for the videos, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't talk about it. In September 2024, a federal indictment alleged that the Russian state-sponsored network RT was covertly providing millions in funding to Tenant Media, a company working with major right-wing influencers, including Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Lawrence Southern. So that was a big scandal at the time. Is this similar in terms of the dark money, or not knowing where that money is coming from? Not saying that it's coming from Russia or anything like that, but who are these people funding tens of millions of dollars into this to help, left-wing media? Let's see who they are. Who are they? There was talk of Peter Thiel funding right-wing media. So, who are these people? Well, let's bring this out into the light. Why not? Why wouldn't we do that? As it says here, these sorts of programs have been happening in the right wing for ages, but Haider said that the structure of the 1630 Fund deal raises the question, is it ethical to match the tactics of your opponents? I mean, as I said, looking at it from the outside, the US just seems to be so much money in politics in different ways as part of it. I just note here at the end of this article to see if there are any updates. To date, there haven't been any kind of corrections, or as I know, lawsuits to do with this yet. So if that's lies, we'll have to wait and see if that happens, I suppose. So let's hear Brian Tyler Cohen talking about it. He did a video, this was on X, about this. And I'm going to respond to it because some of the things, the first thing he says is I think is problematic. Listen to this.
At the risk of giving an internet troll more attention, I want...
Okay, an internet troll. Okay, she's a journalist, and whether you like what she says or not, this is for Wired, which is a respected publication. She's a journalist. She's not an internet troll. So I mean, why even say that?
address a piece that Taylor Lorenz wrote yesterday for Wired. An initiative aimed at boosting Democrats online offers influencers up to $8,000 a month to push the party line. All they have to do is keep it secret and agree to restrictions on their content. Literally nothing in this statement is true. The article is about Chorus, which is a nonprofit that I helped found to build up a creator ecosystem, which everybody says they want, but few are doing. So here's what Chorus is. It is a scholarship program to teach creators how to grow their accounts, foster engagement, launch their own shows, and become profitable on their own. It's an incubator program to build the pro-democracy ecosystem. The right has been doing this for years, and the left needs to catch up. That's why we're doing this with Chorus. Chorus does not pay creators for content, does not tell them what to say, it does not control who they talk to or work with, and there is absolutely nothing in the contract that could even be reasonably interpreted to say that we do. Period. Full stop.
Okay, so according to the article, that isn't true, that there is some implication of, talking points or, the fact that all of these creators are on the same page in terms of, left politics, but not socialist leaning politics, definitely kind of mainstream Democratic Party politics from what I've seen from Brian's videos and David Pakman's videos as well.
We pay people to show up to workshops and technical trainings to optimize their content online. There are zero restrictions on their content. And by the way, the program works. And with regard to keeping it a secret, there is a standard confidentiality clause in the contract to protect the privacy of the creators on the...
Okay, confidentiality, meaning they're saying that, not disclosing where the money's coming from is part of confidentiality. I mean, that doesn't ring true. By the way, I've edited this a little bit. This is longer, just for brevity. There's no meaning taken out of this. What he's saying...
literal first day of the program, it was made clear to all of the creators in our kickoff session that they were absolutely free to talk about Chorus. And we immediately followed up to confirm that in writing. There's the...
in every video, do they talk about, my funding comes from Chorus or something actually in the videos? You'd think that would be the case. That means some of these people, if they are starting off, say they're getting $8,000 a month, it's almost $100,000 a year. That's a lot of money to these people. Say if they're younger creators and they can go full time, I mean, that's a lot of money, and that I think that should be disclosed. That's a lot of money to a small creator who's starting off, not to these people like Brian and David Pakman, been on it for years. Now, it wouldn't surprise me, just from knowing what I know about YouTube in particular, online content, I think these two would be well into seven figures here.
Implication in the article that this is some arm of the DNC or the Democratic Party. We have literally nothing to do with the DNC. I spend 0 minutes of my day thinking about the DNC.
That just doesn't ring true. I mean, he interviews Democratic politicians. He obviously agrees with some of them. He has some regulars on. He talks to lawyers. It's all about not necessarily pushing the party line, but helping the Democratic Party, seeing them in the actual halls of power, in people's offices, agreeing with them, talking about strategy of that kind of thing. So that just does not ring true at all, what he said there.
Do not toe any party line. How could we? There isn't a party line. Lorenz says that the 1630 Fund is, quote, a powerful liberal dark money group. 1630 Fund is our fiscal sponsor. One of the largest documented donors to 1630 Fund is the same person funding Meteor's Reporters in Residence program, which Taylor Lorenz herself is a part of. And guess what her monthly stipend is? $8,000 per month. So she's criticizing an entity that is funded by someone that she is currently taking money from. I guess...
Okay, so she says that's not true. There's tweets on this actual video, and we'll have a look at that. That's why I want to spend some time on this, because it does matter, whether what is being said is true or not, and for us to actually make up our minds as to what is going on here.
It's okay when Taylor Lorenz gets paid, but no one else. The monthly stipend that we offer is so that creators can do this work full time. We've had numerous creators in the cohort quit their jobs so that they can focus on creating content full time. That is what we want. I'm really proud that we can give creators that security for as long as they're in the program. We want people to create pro-democracy content full time. I should note that while I started this program, I have never and will never get paid. I do this 100% as a volunteer. I have never earned a dime from Chorus, and I never will.
He doesn't need to. As I said, I think what he makes from his online content, and I don't know where else he gets his funding from.
There are people like Taylor Lorenz who are desperate to tear the left apart, and in fact, it becomes clear who her efforts help when you hear stuff like this.
Genuinely, I kind of like Taylor Lorenz because I know that she actually believes what she says.
Totally
Do you get what I'm
agree.
saying?
So yeah, I generally don't align myself with friends of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens.
Okay, I don't think that's legitimate. I don't think she's a journalist, and as a journalist, you criticize both sides. Some journalists don't. Definitely bias. There's a lot of biased kind of journalism that's going on in the US, or commentators, just as Brian is here. I don't think that was fair to say that. I've seen Taylor Lorenz criticize both sides, and she says that herself. And we'll look at some of the responses and David Pakman. But before that goes on, if you're getting value out of this episode so far, I'd really appreciate it if you remember to hit that like button to help the algorithm to spread it to more people. It really does help. Thanks. Okay, let's see some responses here. So Taylor Lorenz, Brian is lying. She says, I have zero financial ties to 1630, and neither does the Omidyar Networks LLC reporting program, which is not a dark money org, is nonpartisan. Brian took dark money and failed to disclose his funding. I didn't take dark money, disclosed my funding. So this is in the response to that video. The fact that you're willing to blatantly lie and fabricate nonsense when confronted with cold hard facts is revealing, she says. I have never once taken money from a dark money org. I have zero ties to any dark money orgs and have never taken money from any org related to 1630, she says. Now, Political Punk says here, I think the point was, Pierre Omidyar, which funds you, is the funding behind Hopewell, which is one of the biggest funders of 1630. So that means you, Taylor, and 1630 are both being funded by Pierre. Okay, and Taylor says, please stop with this conspiracy brain nonsense. I have never taken dark money, full stop. And she quotes something here. Omidyar Network receives no funding for the reporters in the residence program via the 1630 fund or any other outside sources. And this as well, I think, is an interesting tweet where Brian responds to, not that I have any sympathy for Taylor Lorenz, but we didn't put any restrictions on what they say is kind of a cop-out answer. That's how soft power works. And Brian says here, who is pretty astute politically, says, I don't know what that means. Yes, he does know what that means. But we literally don't put any restrictions on what people can say. I don't know how much clearer that could be. We literally do not have any oversight over anyone's content, nor do we want it, he says. And this guy, Jack, here is one of the other people I recognize, and he says, we've got your back 100%, man. So he is not a small creator either. He has got a sizable audience on YouTube, and I don't know if he's in this or not. I don't have no information on that. Perhaps you could ask him. I have asked him. I replied to that one. That's him there in the bottom left. It's Brian there. I don't know who these other people are. So this is David Pakman. Let's see what he's got to say about it.
All right, I was not even going to talk about this because I hate participating in the drama. I hate the circular firing squad that often builds on the left. But it's really important that my audience know what's going on, so I am going to talk about it. I was named in an article in Wired yesterday. I also was told that other creators, like a Twitch streamer named Hassan Piker, were covering this in ways that don't reflect the reality of the situation.
Okay, so I guess Hassan, he's got a massive audience. If you don't know Hassan, a lot of people do. You know, there's been talk about in articles about funding, trying to come up with a Joe Rogan of the left, for instance. I think this is partly where this comes from, how to fund that organically, but they're obviously trying to force it to incubate people coming through. But I think these things tend to happen organically, and Hassan is one of those people that is huge. If anybody would be the kind of Joe Rogan of the left, it would probably, I would say it'd probably be him at this point. He's got a big audience and has a lot of influence, but he's more kind of on the socialist side of things, not someone that necessarily the Democratic Party mainstream would like at all.
and are perpetuating falsehoods about what is and isn't going on. Now, the most important thing to say is that the idea behind this group is exactly what I've been advocating for years. For years I've been saying the left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does. The right has won even arguably presidential elections because they're organized with regard to online and independent media.
But disclosing where the money comes from, who is that money, where does it come from? I mean, there's no secret about Elon Musk donating, and he bought Twitter, turned that into a right-wing propaganda platform for himself and people that he is incubating up through there. That's obvious, although that's not there out in the open, but we all know who that is and where the money's coming from.
They're killing us. We've been so behind. And this kind of support for creators is exactly what I've been advocating for. Now, the article is riddled with inaccuracies, and they're not minor inaccuracies. First and foremost, this group has nothing to do with the DNC. People writing saying, the Democratic Party is telling people what to say. At its base, the group has nothing to do with the DNC, period.
Okay, so not directly, but it's pretty obvious that not necessarily even talking points, but I think that's just really not true, that it's got nothing to do with the Democratic Party. It's all towards getting the Democratic Party elected and stronger. That's the whole point of it. So, of course, it does. That's kind of ridiculous to say that.
Number two, I do not get clearance for anything I say. Not a single question I've ever asked a guest has anything to do with Chorus.
I think because he's one of the bigger creators, isn't he? He's incubating people, he's mentoring people. So if anything, it would be him that would be suggesting things, or when in a normal conversation about politics content, wouldn't it come up, these ideas coming up that we're on the same page? I mean, it just doesn't seem credible that political ideas would never come up.
Don't tell me what to talk about. They don't tell me who to interview. They don't tell me how to cover a story. They run technical trainings, how to produce content, how to make your operation more efficient. How do you take a small shop of 1, 2, or 3 people and put content out on multiple platforms the way I've been doing successfully for decades? They set up mentorship relationships between larger creators like me and small up-and-coming creators who are...
Okay, so this mentor relationship, is it just technical? I mean, there's got to be politics involved in that. Surely, come on.
Looking to do content, which is something I've said for years we need to be doing. They do advocacy trainings. They do media trainings. How do you deal with adversarial media?
How do you deal with adversarial media, which is exactly what this is? This is exactly what this is with Taylor Lorenz. They're seeing this as adversarial. That's what journalism is, to be adversarial. Proper journalists to question the government, hold them to account. And as I said, the Democratic Party's had difficulty because influencers have said things they don't like, and they don't want those people to be influencers for them.
Reporters with bad intentions who contact you. Now, I'm one of the larger creators in the current cohort. I want to help others grow. I want to mentor people. I want to grow the left media space. That's something I've been advocating for years. And now the circular firing squad is getting going. Even if you wrongly believed that I was now completely compromised by my participation in this group, this thing is brand new. It's like 8 weeks old or something like that. Maybe 10 weeks old, something like this. The article...
Well, it's good that this is coming up now, that it's not that old, because if there's a problem with the funding, who's funding it? These questions, it's okay to ask these questions. It's good to ask these questions to know where the funding is coming from.
My friend Brian Tyler Cohen, as the co-founder of this group, and now he's being attacked as well. His motives being impugned. Brian worked on this as a volunteer. He has spent hundreds of hours for not a penny on this project, solely because he, like me, believes we need this type of organization on the left. They're killing us on the right. He doesn't need to be doing this for himself. He's trying to do this to build up left-wing content creators, as am I.
It seemed like desperation, if that's the point. He says that the right is killing us in media. I mean, fighting fire with fire, to use the same tactics that you criticize, is that really the way to do it? It seems like desperation if that's what's going on.
The article is designed to attack and degrade. I can't speak to the motives of the people behind it, so I won't even speculate.
I don't think that's true. I just think it's called journalism, adversarial journalism. That's journalism.
My involvement is as I've described it here. There's nothing more and there's nothing less.
Okay. Now we hear from Taylor, and this is Glenn Greenwald talking about it. He's been very strong talking about Israel and show to show for a long time. I've been seeing his content going back to Edward Snowden many years ago. He's not afraid to be adversarial, and he's talking to Taylor here, which I think is very interesting. This is after some of those videos came out, so let's see.
Now, Taylor, I read your article this morning when it came out, and then I read it again in preparing to speak to you about it. And a lot of people on my staff did as well. And we're all like...
So they've just watched the clip by David Pakman here, short one that we watched, but just part of it.
Where in the article did you say this was the DNC funding it? Where in the article do you say that they have to submit what they want to say every day first and get approval? Like, he's denying things that you didn't say and ignoring the things that you actually did. I mean, this thing, like, this is not a DNC arm. Like, right. Technically, it's not an arm of the DNC, but these are people who are active in Democratic Party and liberal politics. That's who they're funding.
And also, Chorus...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
It drives me insane, Glenn, because Chorus was funded. Go read the great New York Times. I think Ken Bensinger wrote it. A piece on Chorus after they launched after their election. That Brian Tyler Cohen is talking specifically about solving the Democrats' messaging problem. Their pitch decks have all this stuff about how the Democrats' messaging problem is broken and they're here to fix it and all this stuff. So yes, they are not the DNC, but they serve the Democratic establishment, and that is what they exist to do. And to sort of act like they don't, or there's some like neutral party, is just absurd.
That is absurd. I think she's right there that it's not the DNC, but it's mainstream Democratic Party politics. I've seen these people's content, very little criticism going on, compared to, say, Hassan Piker, who's very socialist, rarely talks about Palestine and Israel all of the time. And so this is more mainstream. They keep away from controversial subjects that the party would not like. That is the point.
Yeah, I didn't check, so I can't say definitively, but I will bet any amount of money that when those disclosures came out about Tenet Media, which was linked to Russians in some sketchy way, paying people like Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson. I'll bet any amount of money that David Pakman and probably some of the other people on the list were expressing all kinds of outrage and indignation at the ethical transgressions of not having disclosed this and not knowing where their sources came from. What can you tell us, though, about who is providing the funding? Like, is this just grassroots funding, or are there big donors particularly behind it?
Brian said that they call for donations and there's a donate button, but judging by the tens of millions at the top there, it seems probably like that's the massive part of it. If somebody's giving tens of millions of dollars to things, shouldn't we really know who they are?
This is the opposite of grassroots funding.
Right.
You cannot get more opposite. Like the 1630 Fund, again, is this powerful dark money group that allocates hundreds of millions of dollars. I think it was 2023 or 2024. Their largest donor gave $50 million, one donor. Second largest donor, I believe, was 30 million or 40 million. It sort of went down from there, down to like 13 million. Like, these are people with massive amounts of money and massive amounts of influence. You cannot give $50 million to a dark money organization and not expect something, or not expect to have your policy agenda realized. And I put all of these questions to the 1630 Fund and to Chorus. I asked them, who is this? Like, do you know, does it make you nervous? Also, what role did 1630 have in picking the specific influencers? For all we know, the person that gave $50 million to 1630 could have had some sort of input on the ideology expressed, the creators were allowed, ideology of the creators allowed in this program.
So I think that's fair enough that she said that. I mean, maybe Brian could address that. Does he have any contact with this fund, and does he know who they are? Does he know who some of the funders are? Why wouldn't he talk about it? Do they want to keep it secret? I mean, all that stuff should be talked about.
it's just shocking to me, and I just think that we need a lot more transparency. And then you see the liberals double down and say, oh no, well this is what the Republicans do. Again, as you mentioned, they criticize the Republicans for that constantly, and as they should, rightfully so. I criticized Tim Pool, I criticized all those people that took that dark money. You should never take significant amount of money from people that you don't know where it's coming from, especially a shady group like that. If you give $50 million, we should know who you are.
I agree with what she said there. I think that was good. So what do you think of all this? Let me know what you think. I would love to know what you think of this in the comments. What is your take on this? Do let me know. And right now, as always, I'm going to put on the screen of the thumbnails, previous thumbnails. This is some artwork that I've been doing. This is an inkjet print. I'm going to do more of these, probably bigger. If you want to get more of these kinds of videos from me in the very near future, do subscribe. And I'm going to put a link on screen right now to a related video. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.